Thank you everyone today for joining the Breeze Connect VoIP webinar. We're very excited to have the Breeze Connect brand finally launching this webinar today. So whether you're new to VoIP, experienced in VoIP rollouts, be it 3CX or other offerings, we're sure today's webinar will really benefit your ability to grow in this area. So today we'll be looking at Breeze Connect, our new retail telephony offering, and designing and maintaining 3CX systems for your clients. So I'd like to, without further ado, introduce our guest speaker and advanced certified engineer, Mark Martin. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, thanks for having me attend. So today's webinar, we're just going to outline 3CX, how 3CX works, setting it up, and also how to sell it to your customers. And basically adding SIP trunks and also integrating with the Breeze Connect. So I'm a 3CX Advanced Certified Engineer. I've been doing 3CX for around 3 years now, and I've also been doing VoIP hosting for around 10 years, and I've also had 17 years in telco retail, which was basically running Optus stores. So over the last 10 years, my business has grown mainly with hosting. We had a lot of small customers who only wanted they want to get into to VoIP, have it in their into their retail businesses, but didn't want to have the expense of buying full-blown systems. So I started up hosting, and it's been doing really well over the last 10 years. I then moved into 3CX, had a lot of customers who had VoIP systems that were starting to pop up everywhere. They were having issues with them as far as configuration, and so I started doing a lot of on-site support, and it's just grown and grown. I've been assisting Leader over the last 12 months, helping dealers. That's taken up most of my time now, building systems for Leader dealers, doing pre-sale support, post-sale supports, and just answering general questions and helping Leader dealers who are trying to start up systems and having issues with what sort of hardware, what sort of licensing they need, and just generally getting started. Helping them with getting the 3CX system set up. A lot of the systems that we've done have been interstate, so we've done a lot of remote builds. So everything's done through 3CX remotely, and then the dealers are basically just going in and setting up the handsets and doing basic training. So we're going to go through a few bits and pieces with 3CX to start. So what is 3CX? 3CX is basically an IP-based telephone system. It replaces your traditional phone system. So normally you'd have the box on the wall, which would be the PBX, and you'd have all your handsets connected to that. Generally, the system's programmed up by the installation people, and then you can do minor changes on some systems, but generally they're pretty well set. With the 3CX offering, being an IP PBX, it's all managed through a web portal. The system is set up on a local PC in the premises, and then we use VoIP trunks which go over the internet. Because it's web-based, you're able to go in, simply change usernames, email addresses, you can add extensions, delete extensions, and make changes relatively easy. And you don't really need to be an engineer to be able to make basic changes. In a lot of the installations that we've done, we've had someone like a receptionist who's been their key person who has access to the admin, and then they'll go through and change names, addresses, and things like that. With the installation of 3CX, there's two different flavors. There's a Windows-based flavor and also a Linux-based. We prefer to do the Linux-based because it can run on a smaller system. You don't need to worry about Windows licensing, Windows updates, and it is very easy to install. With the Linux version, you don't need to know anything about Linux or programming at all. You basically have an ISO, which is on a CD-ROM or on a zip drive, put it basically into the machine and boot it up. From there, it'll actually erase anything that happens to be on that machine. It will then go through, install the Debian system or the Linux, and then it will build up the 3CX server on top of it. So as you're going through, it just basically does its things. It has to be on the internet. It will basically find an IP address on DHCP, load up all the required software, and it will do all the updates. From the interface, it will then ask you for your external IP address, local network addresses, DNS, and then it will finish building the system. Once the system is configured on the machine, it then will instruct you to go to the web portal. So with the web portal, you just type in the web address from a standard browser, and this is what you'll basically see. So from here, you can go into the portal and you can do all your configurations. So you can add on your SIP trunks, which is basically your telephone lines. You can add your extensions, digital receptionist, which is basically your press 1, press 2 for IVRs when people are calling in. Call queues, so when people are ringing in, they can sit in the queue and they'll be announced you're first in line, you're second in line. Voicemail and other features. Other features are all programmed in through here as well. Once you've programmed the extensions, they're actually, all the configurations are pushed out to the handsets. So if you've got Yealink handsets and you've got the handsets on site and the servers on site, the PBX will actually pick up all the phones by broadcast and it will push the configuration straight out to the handsets. If the handsets are configured at a remote site, then it will connect via Stun. It will just ask for a username and a password on the handset, and then it will go through and pull out the configuration. With 3CX, if you've done basic installations on other systems, it's actually quite intuitive on how to set it all up. You know, going through setting up SIP trunks, there's actually templates so that the key VoIP providers are all in there, and you can just basically go through and add the settings. The handsets, like the Yealink handsets, all have pre-configured templates, so you can just go through and add the handsets, and then the system will actually do all the configuration for you. Learning about 3CX. So with 3CX, if you've never touched an IP PBX, there's a number of ways that you can learn. Now the first way is you can go onto the 3CX website. Now with the 3CX website, they've got a lot of video tutorials that you can go through. They'll step you through all the prerequisites, what to be setting up on your network, how to configure your handsets, how to configure your SIP trunks, as well as call queuing and also best practices. You can actually go through, there's basic installations, then you can go through the more advanced, and then it will take you through to troubleshooting as well. There's also, apart from the tutorials, you can also take the exams. So with the exams, we have a basic engineer, and then you've got your advanced engineering, and you can basically work through your certificates. When you go through and register with 3CX, when you become a bronze partner, that will actually put you on the website, and then you go silver, then up to platinum. As you actually go through the ranks and go up to your gold and platinum, that will actually refer customers to you from the website, so that it will generate leads for you directly from 3CX. So probably the first stage, if you want to get into learning how to program it, is to go to the website. You can go through all the tutorials, and then you can download the free version of 3CX, grab an old machine, put the system on there, and then start configuring and playing with it to build up your confidence. We will be having some classroom training in early 2018. So where does 3CX stand in the marketplace? As you know, NBN's being rolled out, and they're reducing the or pulling out the old copper wires. So now is the ideal time as the NBN's coming on to go through and replace the phone systems. Telstra are pushing people to upgrade to VoIP and to make sure that people are moving across because they are getting rid of that old infrastructure. So in the marketplace, you've got people like NECs, you've got the Telstra, the DOT systems, you've got the Panasonics, and a whole range of phone systems. So being a VoIP phone system, 3CX has a lower cost of ownership than traditional phone systems. With 3CX, you can either get a perpetual license, which is yearly, or you can get a SPLA license, which is a monthly license. So with the licensing, generally what I would do is sell them a 12-month license, which is up front, and then they pay a maintenance fee for software updates and maintenance, which is around 10% of the original cost. Now, there's no contracts with 3CX. There's no contracts with any of the SIP providers, and unless you're contracting your customers with support, there's no contracts there either. So traditionally, you'd be locked in for maybe a 3-year contract when buying a phone system, and they would normally lock you in with support as well. With 3CX, you don't have any of that contracting. So when you're selling the system, it's actually got a web interface which is easy for the systems administrator, so the customer can either administer it themselves or you can administer it for them. And it also has a web interface for each of the extensions so that people can go through and they can make basic changes for themselves. So they can change their voicemail, call diversions, they can also change their status as away, and everything that the user can do on their phone can also be done through the portal. Okay. Can we just go back one more slide? Okay. 3CX offers integration with a lot of packages. So you can integrate it with Office 365, and there's a lot of CRM packages, and also there's a hotel management that you can integrate with. With the hotel management, it will actually push out the call records directly into the property management system. So if you've got a small hotel and 3CX is integrated with it, when a customer checks out of the hotel, they can actually have all that data in the property management system, so they can see how many calls they've made, and also it will integrate with the billing as well. There's a dedicated soft client which you can run on your PC. So instead of having a normal handset like a Yealink, you can just use the soft client and use a headset, whether it would be one of the Jabra Pro 930 USBs or maybe a wired headset. So you don't even have to have a telephone on your desk. If you do have a telephone on your desk, the web portal will allow you to use the CTI mode. What that will do is you can dial through the web portal, so you can dial through the soft client, you can copy and paste numbers, simply hit enter, and your phone will dial out, and there's basically no need to touch it. Calls come in, you just hit answer on the screen, and the call's automatically answered. With the mobile phone, there's a 3CX client you can download onto your Apple iPhone or onto your Android phone. From that, it actually does a tunnel back to the 3CX server, so you don't have to worry about NAT firewalls. So if you're overseas, you can use it from a hotel, and it will basically make calls back from where the server is, i.e. back in Australia. So you're only paying for local calls, and people can still transfer backwards and forwards. From the soft client, you can also access your telephone book in 3CX, which you can download up to 15,000 names and numbers into the 3CX system itself. You can also see presence, so even if you're overseas, you can actually see the presence of everyone in your office. 3CX also has a video conferencing WebRTC package. With the WebRTC, if you're getting a 16-channel license, we'll talk licensing a little bit, you will actually get up to 50 participants that you can do video conferencing for, and that's all included. So you just click on your user portal, you can click Create Conference, it will give you a video link, and then you can send that link to anybody. The recipient just basically clicks on the link, it will open up their Chrome, and then it will join into the conference. This doesn't actually use any of your bandwidth because it's all using the 3CX hosted server, and I believe that there's one in Australia, and it will basically use that server rather than going back through your office. So it's a great selling tool if you've got people who have got multiple offices, or if they've got teleworkers on the road or working from home. They can do one-on-one video conferences, or you can have full web meetings for up to 50 people. The 3CX supports an unlimited amount of extensions. The way the licensing works is it goes by what we call concurrent calls. So we have a 4-channel license, which is 4 calls in or out. They can be calls coming into the system, out of a system, or calling within the system. So if someone's calling another handset, that's using one channel. Someone's checking their voicemail, that's using another channel, or they might have 2 calls in and out on a 4-channel license. From there, it goes to 16 channels, 32, 64, and up from there. You're not actually restricted by the number of handset extensions. So you could have a 8-channel license and have 50 handsets. You're not restricted at all. With 3CX and VoIP systems, you're not restricted by geographical boundaries. So you can have your system either hosted in your office, or you can have it hosted on a remote server in a data center. So if you've got a customer who may have 4 or 5 locations, maybe a small franchise or a small group or retail outlets, they can all utilize the one server. So you have the one server, the one license, and then everyone can connect remotely onto that server. So now you can call internally, transfer internally. You can use your web portal, and you can see exactly who's on the phone, and also transfer around the group as well. You can also set up things like if everyone's busy at a certain office and they're not answering the phone, it can go to an overflow queue and could ring through to another office. You could also have it so that if you've got a receptionist in each of your offices, if they're busy, once again, they can overflow. Or you may have 3 offices and you might only have 1 receptionist who can take all the calls and transfer them around. If you've got remote workers, they can work from home. They simply plug in their handset and it will go back to the server, and they're connected as if they're in the office. The 3CX supports least cost routing. So you can have multiple SIP providers who are bringing your telephone calls in and out. So for example, you may have an office in the Philippines, and you can actually get a SIP provider in the Philippines. So now, every time anyone on your system dials a Philippines number, it can automatically be set to go out through that account so that you're getting local calls in the Philippines. If someone rings that Philippines number, it comes back into the system, and the person in the Philippines is only paying a local call. Now you can actually put quite a few providers, so you can actually have a presence all around the world. It's easy to locate anywhere in the world. So basically, in the past, if you were moving from one exchange with Telstra to another, you'd have to either have a redirection or you'd have to change your number. With VoIP providers, because they're not geographically located, you can get your number and you can just take it with you. So if you're moving across the other side of town, you basically connect your internet service up, pick up all your handsets in your server, and you replug them back in. If your server's hosted remotely, you don't even need to do anything with that. You can just simply move your handsets, plug them in a new location, and away you go. So you don't have to worry about changing numbers, redirecting numbers, getting new lines connected. You can just simply pick up everything and move. Another thing you can do is you can have multiple numbers in multiple states. So for example, if you have a business that is in every state, for example, Leader, you can have a 1300 number or a 1800 number for your website, but then you can have a local number for each state. So you could have a number for Adelaide, Sydney, Perth, Queensland, and then encourage people to call that local number. The advantage is that they only pay for a local call and you don't pay for the incoming call. If you had a 1-800 number or a 1300 number, there's generally a charge for the incoming calls. So with the 3CX, it's very flexible in what it can do with the programming, and it also means that a lot of the systems like the NECs, the functions and features of the 3CX being a VoIP system is a lot more than what is often on these other products. Telstra Dot and the Optus Loop are VoIP solutions from the carrier. The only difference is that with 3CX you have control over everything. If it's a hosted system on a VoIP provider, you generally have limited access to their portal, and you don't have all the advanced features and functions that you can get with something like 3CX. So we've got different types of deployments. So the most common one would probably be an on-site deployment. So if you've got a customer who has 10 handsets or more, they've got an existing phone system, they might have a IPEX or an ARI or an NEC system, and they want to move to VoIP, they can simply upgrade to a on-site system. So number of ways you can do it. The first way is to buy the Breeze Connect NUC. So what we've done with the Breeze Connect NUC is you get the NUC, which you install the software on. It comes with a USB, which has the software preloaded on it, and you simply buy your handsets. So with this solution here, you spin up the instance on the NUC by simply turning on with the USB in. Once again, it will go through the ISO, set up the system, and then from there you can go and program. Being on site, there's no external traffic. You can dial internally, and everything's contained within the network. Provisioning is easier because the 3CX will actually pick up all the handsets, and then it can just assign the extensions. If a customer has a server already on premise, then the next system is to run on a VM. So if they're running, already got VMs running and they're running Hyper-V or VMware, they can simply spin up another instance on their server. You then use the ISO and point the VM to the ISO. It will then once again build the system, and then you can utilize the existing server there. Another way of doing it is to, if you want a cloud solution, so if you've got a company who has multiple sites, and you don't want to use the, you may have an internet connection, might be NBN, but you want to have it separated, so you might want to go to the cloud solution. So the Amazon Web Services and also the Microsoft Azure, basically you're buying an instance, so you're buying a virtual machine. The system for setting up is exactly the same. You're using the same ISO, pointing the server to the ISO, and it will build it up for you. Once it's built up on the machine, once again, you access it via the web portal, and then you can program everything. With the handsets, once the 3CX server knows that it's a remote extension, it will automatically go to a provisioning server with Yealink, and it will register the handsets. You can then drop ship your handsets directly from Leader, put the MAC addresses into the system. When the customer unpacks the handsets and plugs them into the network, the first thing it will do is it will go to the Yealink website, and it will say, is this MAC address registered? And if it is, it will then go to the server and it will pull out the configuration, ask for the extension number and the PIN number, type that in, and it will automatically provision the handsets. So it's great for remote deployments. If you're sending it to people who are working from home, they might be in the state, just pack it off, they can unplug it, and away you go. Now, when you're selling 3CX, there's a couple of ways that you can make money. If you have an instance in a data center, you may want to sell your clients a VM, and you may want to host it for them. or you may want to go and set up the Azure, and then you can on-sell the charges from that as well. We'll go to the next slide. So what are the target markets? So really the 3CX and the VoIP system will suit pretty well any business from you know, your large multi-sites, call centers, down to single users. If you've got someone with a single user, you're not going to go out and sell them a whole website, a whole server, so we'll come to some hosting options for them. So if you've got a real estate agent, real estate company, it's great. We just did one a week ago. We put the system in, and within the first couple of days, we logged on to the system. We could see that the receptionist had already gone through, uploaded all their photos in the portal, so that when they're looking at who's around the office, it actually shows their the photos. And another feature that they were using was the presence. With the presence, we set the screen up with every user so they could control their telephone via the web browser. And with the presence, when they leave, they can actually set away, busy, lunch, or in a meeting. And what they were doing was putting little, you could put little notes in it. So, for example, someone would call in from one of the guys. She could just look at the screen and she could see that they were out on a inspection. And they actually could put on there back at open inspection back at 3 o'clock. So she didn't even need to you know, ring through or page. She could just look at her screen. You could see that person was away and had little notes. With the real estate agent, they also set up a soft client so that when they're out on the road, they can still receive calls from the 3CX system. So if their desk phone rang, they could make it so that it would automatically ring to their extension. The other beauty of that is when they're dialing out to tenants, for example, it actually rings from the office number. So even though they're using the mobile, they're only using mobile data and they're not actually using a mobile call. So the caller ID for that call would be coming up from the actual head office. With the multi-site businesses, we've set quite a few of these up. One was a carpet company in Adelaide. They've got a call centre in their head office where they do all of their booking and take most of their calls. From there, they're able to transfer calls through to their sites. They're also able to call from site to site, and also they use the email, voicemail to email quite a bit for after hours because they were missing quite a few calls. With the call centres, 3CX has a lot of built-in features for call centres. Some of these features include a wall board, so you can actually see how many calls are sitting in the queue, how many calls are unanswered, how many calls are abandoned. At a quick glance, you can see the web page and it will show you all the statistics on the board. Another thing you can do is it's got a barge mode. With the barge mode, you can actually barge into the system. So if someone's on a call, you can speak to both of the people on the call, or you can use a whisper mode for training. With the whisper mode, the person who is being trained can hear the trainer, but the caller coming in can't hear them. So it's great for people who are just getting on the phone and for prompting. With the call centers, you've also got call queuing, so you're first in the queue, you're second in the queue, and it also has a callback feature. So if you're busy with calls, the caller can then press 2 and then it can request a call back. It uses the caller ID from the incoming call, or you can enter your telephone number, and when you reach a position in the queue, the telephone will actually dial out and I'll connect you to the person who was on the line. So we've set up a couple of call centers on 3CX. Instead of using handsets, we're actually using the soft client on the computer, and also we're using no handsets. We're just using the Jabra Pro 930s. Now the Jabra Pro 930s are USB and plug straight into the computer. The guys then have their soft client where they can make and receive phone calls. With the soft client, they can copy numbers and then paste it into the soft client. Just hit enter and it will dial out. Another thing we do is we can enter once again up to 15,000 names and numbers. so we can export all their customer database into CX, and then they can simply type in the per name, hit enter, and it will dial through. With hotels, as I said, there's a hotel integration. So with the hotels, you can actually restrict the rooms for international calls. You can restrict them for local calls. You can also have the property management system integrated with 3CX. So when a guest checks out, the property management system will actually show all their calls, and you can also set all your tariffs as well. Another advantage of hotels is when you're using the Breeze Connect, you can actually simply add or subtract phone lines. So, for example, a hotel that might have 50 rooms, you might have 10 SIP lines coming in, so you can have 10 calls going in or out. If the traffic increases within the hotel, you can basically move that from 10 to 15, and that's just a matter of going through, changing the trunking on 3CX, and also adding the trunks onto the Breeze Connect. Hotel Portal is great, so you can actually see who's on the phones in the room. You can also transfer, and you can also, from the portal, you can clear that guest. So once the room has been vacated, you clear all the call history, and it will also clear all the voicemail out as well. We had a case from the last Leader Roadshow where a dealer had a lead for a hotel. Now the only problem was that the hotel didn't have Cat 5 or Cat 6 in any of the rooms. So the dealer said, well, we really can't do it because we can't put VoIP handsets in the room. Now, there's ways around that. We've got what we call FXS gateways. Now, the gateways can have 48 ports or 96 ports, and then you can simply plug in the old analog handsets, and then we can program them into 3CX. So even if they've got two-pair wiring, we can still do interaction with some of these gateways. Teleworkers who are on the road basically use the soft client. Once again, they can use soft client on the laptop or on the mobile. And that works really well overseas, except for China, where there's a lot of call blocking. We'll just go to the next slide. Okay, so how you can make money on 3CX. So when you're selling a 3CX solution, probably the key factor when quoting is to remember that most of the other products you're going to be coming across are going to be either Telstra phone systems or NEC phone systems. With 3CX, a lot of people think that it's expensive, but when you go through and you add it all up, you look at the cost of ownership, it's actually quite a bit cheaper. So what you're doing is you're selling them a 3CX license. So the license, as I said, come in 4, 8, 16, 32 or 64 up simultaneous calls. So you sell them a license, and then that is an upfront fee for the first year, and then after that they have a maintenance renewal, which is about 10% of the original license fee. You're selling them the handsets, so you're selling them Yealink handsets, whether they be desk phones, cordless phones, conference phones. There's a whole range of handsets offered by Yealink. And once again, the reason we suggest the Yealink handsets is because they're fully compatible with 3CX. They've got all your SSL certificates, which are updated through the system. They're automatically configured, and they're very, very reliable, and also have fantastic audio. With the switching, you will probably need to sell them PoE switches. So if you're not selling PoE switches, then you're probably going to need power packs for each of the handsets. And of course, you've got other accessories like headsets and other bits and pieces as well. With the call charges, on the Breeze Connect, there's a 20% commission which is paid to dealers. So basically, you're using Breeze Connect for your SIP trunks, This replaces your traditional line rental, and also the call charges are billed through Breeze Connect. So you're going to get a 20% commission on this paid directly to you. Some VoIP providers do give commissions, but trust me, they are very, very small. And 20% is on actually the whole lot. So that's good ongoing revenue for you. We charge for installation and ongoing support, support and training, and then later on, if you've got to make system changes, you can also charge for that as well. For an example, average installation, you probably want to charge about $1,500 to set up a server, and then generally I charge $110 per handset. So $1,500 covers your building of a server, setting up all the configuration, setting up all your ring groups, voicemail. The reason we charge $110 per handset is we had to come up with a formula on how to charge for bigger systems and smaller ones. You might have a system that only has 2 or 3 handsets, and obviously it's going to be a lot quicker to set up. But you still take time in setting up the trunking, the training. So if you go in at $1,500 and then $110 a handset, you pretty well cover it. If you've got a customer who's got 10 or 15 handsets, obviously it's going to take you a lot more programming, not just of the handsets, but of also the PBX as well. And of course, you know, if you've got 15 users, you've pretty well got 15 people who can invent new problems for you. And then after that, we've also got different models that you can use. For example, hosting. So if you want to host, you can have different models. Another way to make money is instead of having on-site, if you've got VMs or servers in a data center, you can set up virtual machines. So, so this is for people who have got multi-site businesses, people who generally have 10 handsets or more. So if a customer comes to you and says, look, you know, we've got 5 outlets and you've got presence in the data center, you may want to spin up a VM. So it might be in your data center, or it might be a AWS server, and then you can set up the 3CX instance on there. With this example, you would basically charge them $440 a month for an 8-channel license. So what you're doing is you're actually charging that $440 a month is for you, for the customer to have their 3CX instance in your data center. Typically, the customer would pay for the 3CX license. You may or may not charge them a setup fee, but then every month you charge the ongoing $440, and that would generally incorporate some sort of support as well. So if you've got a good-sized machine in the data center, you know, you might have 15 VMs on there, one for each one of your customers. Now, the next one is if you want to do a multi-tenant. What you can also do with a 3CX server is you can multi-tenant. Now, there's no official multi-tenant anymore, but what I've done is used an instance with 16, 32, or 64 channel license. I pay for the license. I set up the server, which is hosted in the data center. And then what I do is I charge between $20 and $30 per month per handset. So for hosting on 3CX, I generally charge $30 a month. So the $30 basically covers your part of the license. You can still use all the features like call waiting, music on hold. Individual businesses can have their own messages on hold. They can also have access to the portal for each extension, so they can still make basic changes like changing the voicemail, changing greetings, changing call diversions, and status. So they can have all the features of a 3CX, but they're not having to go out and buy the license. So instead of them paying $1,500 for the 3CX, $110 a handset, having to buy a VM, it's all basically covered in the $30 per month. What you do with the trunking is I generally give every customer their own SIP trunk. So you give them their own individual SIP trunk, which has their own in-dial numbers, and then you set the machine up in different groups. So for example, business A, which might be a pizza bar, when they dial out from their 3 handsets, it'll go out through their 3 trunks and the number will appear. When the calls come back into that in-dialing number, it will then go to either an IVR or a ring group, and it will ring all the handsets within the pizza bar. So if you've got someone who's got a home office and they've only got 1 handset and maybe a soft client, then it's ideal because they're getting all the features of 3CX and they're only paying $30 a month plus the cost of the SIP trunk. And every month you're basically claiming that $300. So if you're using an AWS, you can start off with a small server with a smaller CPU, and then you can basically build it as you go. If you hit 32 channels and you need more channels, you can simply buy an upgrade and then upgrade from the 16 to 32 or 32 to 64 channels. When you're setting up the system, there are a couple of limitations on recording. You can record, but each customer won't have individual access to the recordings. And things like call reporting, you'd probably have to pull the reports out for individual customers. You can also set up reports to automatically send out to your customers. So you can send a report at the beginning of the month or once a week with just their individual extensions, and you can have that report sent out to them. So if you're setting up the multi-tenant, I have some servers that have up to 200 handsets on a server, and as I said, generally between 20 and 30. For 3CX, I normally charge $30 for. Sometimes I'll only charge $25, depending on the customer. Go to the next slide. Okay, so the on-premise server is basically customers who want to leverage off their own infrastructure. So it might be using their existing server with a Hyper-Breeze, or you can use the Breeze Connect NUC. So it comes in 3 sizes. We've got a small, a medium, and a large, depending on the size of the installation and how many handsets you're going to have connected to it. So the pricing you pay, customer 3CX license, you are selling the NUC, which is the hardware, and then going through and setting it all up and charging a setup fee. For maintenance, I normally give 3 months unlimited support, and then after that, I normally do around $5 a month per handset per month. With the security, 3CX has put a lot of time and effort into the security. It does all automatic blocking, so if someone tries to do a brute force attack or is trying to do password hacking, it will actually pick that up and it will block your IPs. It also has toll fraud built into it, so you can actually restrict certain countries. So, for example, if customers are only operating in Australia, you can make sure that they can only make calls within Australia and they're not able to make international calls from all extensions. If you've got someone who does need international calls, you can put them in a special group and then they can dial out internationally. With the SIP trunks, generally what I would do is block international calls if the customer's not going to use them. SSL certificate encryption is included with 3CX, and when you set it all up, you actually get your own domain. So mine is digitalworld.3cx.com.au. They will actually give you that domain name. All the SSL certificates are provided by Let's Encrypt, and also the certificates are also compatible with the Yealink handsets, so you can have encryption all the way through. With the auto update on the Linux version, it will basically keep updating the system. So the Debian has security patches, and also 3CX push through patches as well, and you can have them done automatically. click on the next one. Okay, so with the installations, so what we're offering is 3CX professional services. So if you've got a complex configuration with remote extension satellite offices, system bridging, which is where you have two different locations and you want to join them together, we can do all that for you. So we set up the auto attendance, call queuing, you can set up automatic reporting, record all their voicemail, IVRs, and also integrate it with their hotel or CRM package. So what we're doing is we're doing bundled deals, so you can buy 2 hours of professional support. It's $3.99 to the customer and $2.99 to the dealer. So basically, if you've got a larger deployment, you can either go for the package with the 2 hours, and what that will do is that will give you 2 hours of unlimited telephone support. So you wouldn't have to worry about like what equipment to use, what licensing, all of that is done for you anyway. But if you want me to go in and set up the initial server, set up a trunks, and get you started so that then you can just manage it, then that's what your 2 hours of professional support is including. For larger deployments, I generally charge $1,500 to set up server and $110 per handset. Now with this, dealers can put their margin on that. I can't see any problem with charging $2,000 for service setup, and you could probably charge maybe $150 per handset. If you look at what it costs to program a traditional phone system and to set it up, this pricing is probably still a lot cheaper than that. If you're after installations in Adelaide or around Adelaide, I can do on-site. If you've got big installations and they're in a state, you can either pay for travel costs, or depending on the installation, if you've got something really big, then I can always travel and we can work something out. Another thing that you may want to do is you may already be selling 3CX, or you may be confident in selling it up, and you may have done a few deployments. I've had dealers ring up and they've basically said, look, we've got a hotel, we've set up 3CX before and we're doing support, we've got it in our office, but what we want to know is that if we go for this big job and we get stuck, we can ring you. And then the answer is yes. If you get stuck with a big job, then we can do a per hourly rate. So if you get stuck, I can basically log onto the server, fix whatever you need fixing, and then you can take over from there. So we can be fairly flexible. Once you've done the some of the online training, set it up in your office, how to play with it, you may just need someone to get you started on the first couple of systems, and then after that, you may just want to continue on by yourself. Other dealers are just getting me to do the whole setup. So what they're doing is they're going out, selling the solution, making money on the 3CX license, making money on the NUC, making money on the setup, making money on the handsets, and then I do all the programming. Dealer comes in, connects up the handsets. I do some basic training, and then I'll do training over the phone, and then moving on to the next one. And they're not having to worry about things like support, and also having customers call them, because the customers can actually call me direct. We're doing a big deployment at the moment for a national group who's got 55 locations. So far, we've done just over 110 handsets. We've probably got about another 400 to go. I think 2 of their locations are actually in South Australia, in the country, but everything has been done remotely. So once they moved their internet services over to the NBN, which has been done by their IT people, handsets are basically being delivered. They're plugging them straight in, and as far as the clinics are concerned, they just work. In the back end, we go through, program up all the call queuing, the in-dial numbers, getting everything set up, so the dealer just basically has to plug in the handsets, and away they go. Now, next slide.
Thanks, Mark. So yeah, that's a really good insight for everybody who's looking at 3CX, not quite sure about it, or whether they've set it up traditionally on-premise and looking at the cloud. So it's a really good introduction. So what I want to go through today from my side of it is we've been working very hard at Leader to make sure that our resellers remain profitable and adapt to change. So what we've done is with the Breeze Connect brand, we've given our resellers an opportunity to sell VoIP, but to obviously make margin on it. So I'll be exploring that a bit further in the next few slides. So everyone talks about being NBN ready. So what does that actually mean? So NBN ready means that your phone system or your solution is going to work once the legacy or the current telephone lines, ISDN and ADSL services are turned off. So it's really important that people switch across to VoIP or start thinking about transitioning to a more modern phone system. So using Yealink and 3CX, as Mark has explained, you can really capitalize on the high bandwidth availability of NBN and use that to your advantage by offering telephony solutions that go across the NBN, be it fiber to the node, fiber to the premise, or whether you're using the fixed wireless services. So for Breeze Connect, unlike other phone providers, we're paying 20% commission to partners. So other service providers like Engine and MyNetPhone, a lot of them have cancelled their dealer partner programs, and if they haven't cancelled them, they pay a lot less commission. So we've really focused on making sure that our resellers remain profitable and can utilize the Breeze Connect and sell it quite confidently. So as Mark was talking, the solution is this. You're connecting your Yealink handsets, your Breeze Connect, your 3CX, and it's the total solution. Our Ubiquiti Unify switches that a lot of you are familiar with that work perfectly with 3CX, Yealink, and Breeze Connect. So if you're doing a deployment for Wi-Fi phones, you can really offer the total solution with the Ubiquiti range as well. What we've done is a lot of partners have come to us and said, look, I want to sell 3CX, I want to sell Yealink, but I'm not quite sure how it all pieces together. So what we've done is we've designed a configuration tool that can take all of the guesswork out of the Breeze Connect configuration. I'll bring that up now on this screen to show everybody. So the Breeze Connect configurator is behind a lock screen, so we'll be sending out notes after the webinar for people to be able to access this locked area of the Breeze Connect website. So from the Breeze Connect configurator, you can select the plan you wish to go on. So Breeze Connect has two types of plans. We've got pay-as-you-go, and we've got unlimited plans. So depending on your customer, if your customer is making a lot of calls, particularly mobile calls, then the unlimited plan might be something that's better for you. If for smaller offices where you don't need as many calls or the phone is used quite infrequently, then a pay-as-you-go plan might be the way to go. So in this example, we'll choose the unlimited plan and we'll select how many lines we're going to use. Once that's selected, the commission, your monthly commission will appear down the bottom there. This is only visible to yourself, not your end user. Then we can select the 3CX license. There's two versions of 3CX. There's the standard edition and the pro. There's a really good detailed breakdown on the 3CX website. So if you visit 3cx.com, you'll be able to compare the editions between standard and professional. Next off, we'll be able to compare our license call capacity. So 3CX, as Mark was explaining, works on a simultaneous call license, be it 4, 8, 16, 32, or 64. So in this instance, we'll pick an 8 simultaneous call system. This will calculate the dealer buy price for 3CX, the RRP value, and calculate your margin. Next, you'll be able to select the PBX hardware. Now, in this instance, we've recommended that you use the Breeze Connect 3CX i3 NUC, which is our medium phone system. If you log into the dealer shop, you'll be able to find this system under 3CX bundles, and we've actually taken all of the guesswork out of the hardware, the RAM, and the processor by giving you a turnkey solution. All of our Breeze Connect NUCs come with a Linux installer USB that we've updated the drivers on to suit this, this hardware. If, as Mark was explaining earlier, you're using virtualization, be it Hyper-V, VMware, or whether you like to load up onto the cloud, be it Azure, AWS, or Google, you can just pick using existing infrastructure or virtualization, and that will remove the cost component of the hardware out of there. As we scroll down, we've selected the 4 phones that we recommend people use. So the T41S, the T42S, the T46, and the T48. So if you select your phone, your quantity, we'll go through and pick that. It will calculate the cost and your margin on those, and you can scroll down and add those on. The whole purpose of this utility is to create a bill of materials and a RRP quotation that you can provide your customer without having to reinvent the wheel each time you're designing a system. Add 2 of these phones on, and add a conference phone on as well. Now, as Mark indicated earlier, we're going to be having 2 options. Self-install, so whether you feel confident selling the solution and installing it all yourself, or we have the professional support option. That's where Mark or a 3CX Advanced Certified Engineer can discuss and work with you remotely to ensure that you feel comfortable setting up the system, the ring groups, auto attendant, and other features to make sure that your system works as per your customer's requirements. Further on, we have another option here for installation media. For those of you who have got the 3CX installer and feel comfortable creating the installation media, you can just select no media. For those of you who require the latest 3CX version, our tech rooms in all states will be able to package with the 3CX bundle the latest Linux installer with all of the drivers and features enabled to work on all of our Breeze Connect products. Once you enter your end user details in, enter your reseller details in, you'll be able to select your time frame. So this is a great way for you to use on your presentation just to tell the client, this is when we need to order the delivery of the hardware, and this is going to be the installation date. Here we have the subtotal, GST component, and total RRP price with your margin calculated down the bottom. Once the quote's been generated, I'll go back to the slide and you'll be able to see the final product. This will produce a Word document that will be emailed to you. So you'll have here a tailored proposal to give to your client that you can edit in a Word document. So it covers the delivery date, the installation date, the Breeze Connect plan and lines that we're planning to put the customer on, the 3CX call capacity and license, the 3CX hardware, and all of the phones that you selected and the quantity. Once you've selected all of those, then you can add on your logo at the top. You might want to customize the message, or you may want to even change the prices, but it's a great starting point for you to produce really fast quotes without having to reinvent the wheel each time. You'll also be emailed a bill of materials that you can email to your leader account manager in order to order all of the hardware at your dealer buy price. So we've had a lot of feedback about the plans, and we've really tried to be quite competitive in the market. So starting from $14, our 2-line pay-as-you-go plans include 2 DIDs, 2 lines, and very competitive call rates. So we've got 9-cent local calls, 14 cents a minute for mobiles, and 28 cents flat rate for 1300 calls. So Breeze Connect do all of the billing to your customer, and we pay you a 20% ongoing commission each month. The unlimited plans are great value. They include local and national, mobile, and 1300 calls, completely unlimited, and they come in 2, 4, 8, and 16 line variants. If you wish to have more lines, please contact us, and we can tailor a solution to suit your client's needs. So Breeze Connect, we have direct in-dial numbers, no problems. We've got a pool of numbers from each state available in the portal that you can spin up for your customers straight away. If you require specific numbers, or you'd like to order more numbers that work within your client's area or their traditional number, we can accommodate that. Please just drop me an email. We have the ability to transfer numbers from any other provider, so we support full LNP. Australian-based support and billing. Everyone here at Leaders in Australia, we're an Australian-based company. We pay all our taxes here in Australia, and we're proud to have all our support and engineers right here in each state. Enterprise-grade call quality, we haven't skimped on this product at all. It's a full enterprise-grade product and portal, which I'll show you guys shortly. So to become a partner, you need to register on the Breeze Connect website. So if you visit www.breezeconnect.com.au and click on the partner registration and enter your details in, you'll require your name, company name, the best contact number for our support engineers to call, email address for your Breeze Connect login, and just your leader account number and account manager. If you enter all those details in, we generally get back and have that registered within a few business hours. It's really important that you're registered as a 3CX partner. So being registered as a 3CX partner, you receive a free NFR key that you can set up for your internal use. This is a great opportunity for you to learn and be familiar with 3CX so that you feel confident selling to your customers. You can access the technical support and knowledge base articles and register for training. Once you become registered for training, you can then become accredited. So they're the URLs down the bottom, and we'll be circulating the slides after the presentation. I'll explain a bit about the portal now, and we'll do a bit of a demo of the Breeze Connect portal. The Breeze Connect portal, we've spent a lot of time developing. So I think a lot of you are familiar with Engine or maybe MyNetPhone and other providers out there. We've integrated all the great features of those providers, but taken it from a reseller's point of view. New customers can be set up instantly in the Breeze Connect portal, and you have access to set those up. So by entering the customer name, their password to log in and access their call records, you can set up a new trunk for them, enter their ABN, time zone and address details, which we'll skip for this to save time, and then add user. Once a new user has been added, you'll see that it's processing and you've set up a new trunk and a new subscriber in your portal. Then you'll be paid commission on this user for all their usage moving forward. Under the VoIP tab, we have our trunks. So each of your customers will have a trunk that is attributed to their service. And you can go in there and you can edit the trunks. If you have a look here, we've got plans that will be coming into the Breeze Connect portal in the next day or two, and they will reflect the plans on the website. So you'll simply be able to select the plan, the trunk password, the number of channels, and then provision that onto the 3CX system. We do support user-based authentication, and our developers have finished writing in IP-based registration. So some older phone systems out there that don't support user-based registration, we can work on an IP-based registration instead. Assigning DIDs is very, very simple. If you click on Assign DIDs and select the trunk that you wish to use, and we'll just pick any trunk for the moment, we've got a pool of numbers nationally that we've got in stock that are available. These numbers are subject to other resellers not taking them before you do. So if you do have numbers that you wish to reserve, we highly recommend that you go in there and do that straight away. For assigning multiple numbers to a trunk, you can select the from and the to DID and to allocate the numbers a lot faster. So in this instance, we'll select a Sydney number, which is 02 5104 2104, and we'll select the last one as 2106. Once I click Assign, it will prompt me, do I want to assign 3 DIDs? I simply click OK, and they'll be assigned to that trunk. Now, a lot of people are used to dealing with Engine or the Self-Care portal. We've had a lot of people be hesitant to move to other providers simply because Self-Care offers so much functionality for call forwarding. We've built that into our system. So if you go into your customer's trunk and click Get Details, that will talk back to our systems, and you can set up any call forwarding you wish. So you can check the trunk registration status. So for example, if your customer goes offline or they lose their internet connection, you can actually have it forwarding to a mobile or another service number. If the customer is relocating or won't have their phones plugged in, you can set the number up to always forward. By clicking click here to update, that will be processed straight away and takes about 5 to 10 seconds to update on our system. For call records, you can browse and you can view all of your customers' call records live in our portal and see what calls are being made and what calls are being answered. We've also built in a graphing functionality as well, so you can see at what time of the day the calls are being made, and that can help you planning with your 3CX deployment. 1300 and 1800 numbers, we've got it all built in now, so you can port and set up all new 1300 numbers directly in the Breeze Connect portal. So by going to VoIP and then to porting, you'll be able to bring in numbers from other carriers. So if you've got a customer on Telstra, Optus, or maybe another provider that is using VoIP, you can simply select your customer after setting it up and then click Next. Enter the customer details, so the ABN, ACN, the organisation name, their contact numbers and address, and then the service numbers you wish to port. So if you wanted to port in a 1300 or 1800 number, you would just simply select that there. PSTN for traditional copper services, ISDN for more complex porting, and VoIP if moving from MyNet phone or another carrier. It's really important to get the current carrier and service account number correct, as this will prevent the port from taking place. Further, it's critical to get the date of birth or driver's license of the account holder to make the port go through. So we'll just enter a quick port in here and I'll show you guys how this works. Okay, and then we'll add that in. We'll put the current carrier here as Telstra, and date of birth, and next. What if I missed something? Okay, now what we've done here is a lot of people have trouble with porting in terms of having to print off forms, having to go to your customer and get all that completed. We've made it ultra easy using the customer's digital signatures. So customers, you can go out to on site, you can grab your notepad or tablet, and the customer can sign directly on the screen. Once the customer signs on the screen, you can accept the terms and conditions and then click Next. This will generate a PDF that the customer that you can download and print off for your records, and it will email the customer as well. I won't order this port as this is our live production system. Close here. Once the port is submitted, you'll be able to see your porting in the active and submitted. That takes around 10 to 15 minutes for that to generate and come back from our providers. Once that's been generated, you'll be able to see the status of all of your porting on the portal, book in porting times, make changes to the times, and plan your porting with your customer. So as the porting is accepted, the time is booked, it's all straight on the portal. There's no need for additional portals or any other correspondence via email. All of the billing is done by Breeze Connect. We bill at the end of the month, and we do all of the compliance and all of the accounts, chasing the accounts. So there's no need for resellers to have to worry about integrating with their billing platform or invoicing their users. We have full extension level visibility where we can see for each user, we can search on all the calls made real time. So you can see here, this particular trunk, we've had 14 mobile calls for a $15 cost. This is all just dummy data in here, but gives you an idea of how much visibility you do have. All right, we'll go back to the services. So as you can see, I've run through the services in the portal and how that all works. on our website, breezeconnect.com.au, we've actually uploaded the 3CX provisioning templates for BreezeConnect. We're working with 3CX at the moment to have that built into the system, and we're hoping by the next release that that will be already built in from the drop-down list. So going from what Mark said and just doing a little bit of a case study about 3CX and how a typical deployment would look. In this scenario, we've just made a fictitious company name. We've had a look at some of the ways you can make margin and a bit of an example how that would look over 5 years. So for instance, we've walked into a business here that's just been connected to the NBN and they have 8 staff. Now, Sally's Creative Services had a legacy ISDN service in there, so a traditional phone system, either supplied by Telstra or NEC, Panasonic, that had 4 digital lines coming in. Now, Sally's Creative Services wanted call recording and call statistics. So in this instance, we'd look at the professional version of 3CX. So some staff required work from home, and some are required their extension outside of the office. So in this instance, we've just used a Leader NUC for an example, the SN4 Plus, our new NUC that we've just got on board, and we've paired it up with a 4 simultaneous call license. You can see here that we've purchased 4 T48Ss and 4 T46S handsets. We've used one of our Ubiquiti 16-port PoE switches, and we've just noticed here that the office is already wired in Cat5e or Cat6. And we've taken that into consideration. So as you can see here, if you look at this system and you look at the profitability out of it, you can really see that this 3CX, Breeze, and Yealink is a great way to make margin. So for this deal, taking into account the $1,500 for programming, $110 per handset, plus the margin from each of the hardware components, you can see from this that there's a healthy margin of a bit over $3,000. If you take into consideration the commissions paid by BreezeConnect over 5 years, you can see that this is a very healthy deal. The reseller will make $2,784 over the 5-year period just by selling BreezeConnect. So we're going to open up now and ask if anyone's got any questions to reach out to us on the live chat, and we'll answer your questions and go through some of the different scenarios for the more complex rollouts. So I've got a question here from Nick about the Yealink handsets. I'm having a look here. Does it work well with them, or do you recommend the Yealink handsets? Do you want to give me a bit more information, Nick, about that? Question from Trevor. On the BreezeConnect portal, when you select 4 lines in step 1, what does this refer to? The number of SIP trunk DID numbers? Okay, I'll go back into the portal, Trevor, and I'll show you that where that works. So when you go into the trunks in here, the plans here will automatically update the channel numbers. We're just working to finalise that at the moment. So when you select the plans in here, it will update the channels. We're expecting to have that live tomorrow afternoon. So in the meantime, you can leave the plan blank and just put the number of channels you wish to bill, and then click Update Channel, and that will update it for you. Channels refer to the number of simultaneous calls that this trunk can handle. It doesn't have any relation to the DIDs. So if you required, if you were pairing this up with a 4 simultaneous call license, then you would use 4 channels of audio so that the BreezeConnect portal matched the 3CX licensing. I have another question here. The 1300 call charges. So we've on our BreezeConnect website, we have the, if you go to plans up here and go to inbound services, we have 13 and 1-800 numbers, and we charge a 12 cents a minute to receive for 1-800 numbers and 8.5 cents a minute for 1300 numbers. And we work on a $10 per month hosting fee for those. Question here, do end users get an invoice from BreezeConnect or for BreezeConnect, or need to provide direct debit credit card details? Okay, Matt, so at this stage what we're doing is we're billing clients and they will receive a monthly tax invoice from BreezeConnect, they can then go online and pay that via credit card through our ANZ API. So that's all been done. Do we support the Ubiquiti phones, from Nick? At this stage, 3CX hasn't certified the Ubiquiti phones, so that they're not on the recommended hardware list. So we're pushing for that at the moment with Ubiquiti, and we're talking with 3CX, but that's not really something that we're hoping or that we will have set up probably in the next few months. Probably a question for Mark. How quick is the backup restoration of the 3CX system in the event of a NUC or a VM failure, assuming we have a hardware/VM ready to go? Mark, could you add a bit of information to that?
So there's probably two ways you could do it. The first way is to, I believe you can export the VM. So if you've got a backup that you've exported, you should be able to just restore that. Otherwise, if you've just taken the 3CX backups, if you will start a new VM, it would probably take you around 15 minutes to build the VM, and then the actual restore process is pretty quick. So it only takes about 5-10 minutes to restore it. Obviously, this varies. We've got a customer who is a call center and they've got 1-point-something million call records, which takes a long time, and if they've got a lot of call recordings. But apart from that, it's just the time that it takes for 3CX to build the actual VM, but the actual restore from that doesn't take long. Yeah.
Okay, great. I've got another question here. Is BreezeConnect owned by Leader? So yeah, BreezeConnect is part of the Leader group. So we're not reselling someone else's services. So that is correct. So additional DIDs. Chris, so additional DIDs, all the pricing will be available via the portal. At this stage, I believe they're 35 cents per DID. A question from Troy. Can it work with non-3CX systems? Troy, absolutely it can. So you just need to make sure that your phone system installer or maintainer knows how to utilize SIP trunking in the system, and it can provision it. So we do recommend that you trial the BreezeConnect product with other PBXs before selling it to your customer. Another question here from Ari. If a customer has a current VoIP system with Polycom phones, for instance, can they be used? That's probably a good question for Mark. Is Polycom 3CX certified?
There are some Polycom handsets that you can put onto 3CX. A lot of the old Polycom handsets, they actually need a whole lot of additional files that are stored on the PBX to actually get the handsets running. So if you've got a normal SIP compliant phone like a Yealink or even one of the Ubiquiti handsets, you can program it as a standard SIP phone onto 3CX. With the Polycom, you can only use the ones that have got the templates with 3CX because it will need them additional files. If you're using a pure Polycom system, then you could probably get that Polycom PBX to connect directly with BreezeConnect.
Thanks, Mark. Another question here from Corey. If porting in PSTN numbers, do these numbers become a DID? Yes, Corey, they do. So the porting process, depending on whether it's a complex or a standard port, it can take between 4 and 6 weeks. Something else to consider at the moment is that we're entering an embargo period with the carriers. So the carriers go on holidays in approximately December, early January. So your port probably won't take preference or won't come through in that time. So if you're moving customers onto VoIP, ports submitted during this time will probably fall into January, early February before they go through. Question from Terry Langford. Is there any way the portal can go back to the main admin user rather than having to log in and out every time? That's a great question, Terry. So if we go back into the portal here and you want to open up for that customer, I'll pick an end user. So these are our customers that are accessing remotely. If you go here and you open up that, you can right-click and go log in. Once you right-click and go log in, it will open up and impersonate that user, but you can flick back between both users. So you can see abc at abc.com, and you can flick between the two. So that is a good way of doing it. Will we do white label? At this stage, no. The reason is that you'll have to be TIO and ComCom compliant. and that's part of the your ability to be able to sell in the market. So we probably may possibly look at it later next year, but at this stage, no. I've got a question from Trevor Hardy. Having set up a few VoIP solutions to clients upgrading from a PSTN PBX, we've looked at solutions from numerous telco and phone providers. For example, we've set up a 15 active SIP line service is costing them $32 per line per month. Upfront costs were $2.5K for licenses on their existing Avaya system. That's a heck of a lot cheaper than what you're talking about. Yeah, that is correct, Trevor. The thing with an Avaya system is that you need to have a maintainer or an installer that can program and use Avaya. I've also set up an Avaya system for a large school in back when I was there, and the Avaya systems don't have the same functionality that the 3CX does. 3CX is a lot more flexible. So look, it's horses for courses. It depends on what you're looking for. I've also had a lot of customers with Avaya systems that have moved to SIP have had troubles with it. So I'm not saying that they're not SIP compatible. You've just got to find the right people to maintain them. Question from Damien: do Breeze Connect have voice servers in each capital city? Good question. So we've got our servers running on Google's cloud platform at the moment. And I'm assuming Damien's referring to latency or to call dropouts. What we're doing is we've done some testing with some of our resellers in Perth, Darwin, Adelaide, Sydney, and Melbourne. We believe that there are no latency issues for each capital city. So the way we've got the routing and IP allocations all set up between the capital cities, we've crossed that bridge already. So happy, Damien, to give you a test trunk if you'd like to try it for your customer before committing. From Grant: is Breeze Connect a publicly listed company? Grant, it's a private company, so no. Charles Hart: does Breeze Connect divert calls from an existing Telstra number to a VoIP number while the Telstra number is being ported? That's a great question. So we do allow call overstamping. So if, for instance, you're porting a customer from Telstra, Optus, or another phone provider, you can display that number as the outbound caller ID, even though that number hasn't been ported to Breeze Connect. So this is a great way to get your customer on VoIP, get your customers' outbound calls displaying as that DID, but still waiting for the port to take place. So to achieve this, you would have to call forward the Telstra number to the temporary Breeze Connect DIDs in order to still receive inbound calls. Question here: when you say 3CX for simultaneous calls, does that mean external calls or calls including internal? And that's probably a good question for Mark.
It's including internal calls, so it's calls in, calls out, or a combination of. If someone's calling a internal extension or someone's calling voicemail, that's also included, classes an internal call as well, and is part of the for simultaneous calls. So you just have to be careful. The other thing is that we've had a lot of businesses where they may have only had four lines, but when they're going VoIP, they're finding that they're actually using a lot more lines than they're actually anticipated. So if someone had 4 lines in the past, I generally sell them an 8-channel license, and you'll find that quite often they'll be using 5, 6 calls at a time because they don't have that limitations and they're not getting the engaged signal anymore.
Okay, great. A lot of people asking questions about failover systems. So, what do you recommend, Mark, in relation to people ensuring uptime for their system?
So, the first thing is with Breeze Connect, you can have it so that if the server becomes offline, it'll automatically go to a failover number. So this can be a mobile service or and that's probably the first thing we do is go to a mobile service. So if your server doesn't connect, it'll go to there. Now look, this is generally if the server is on site and they may have an internet issue. With the failover, you can do automatic backups, which can be either on a local machine or to a FTP server, which if you really need to, you can restore. Now, to be honest, we haven't actually had any instances where the machines have actually failed and we've had to do a restore, touch wood. Most of the time, the Linux version is very, very stable. So the worst that we would do is basically restarting the services, and then the system would become back online again. So if it's on a VM, once again, you can export the VM, and then you can re-import it if you have an issue, or if you have it on a VM, you can also just spin it up again by reloading the ISO, and then just do the restore, and then everything will be restored again. If you have an enterprise version of 3CX, you can actually have the standby license. So you could actually have it running on 2 different servers, and then if one goes down, you can automatically have it flick over to the next one.
Okay,
it's
awesome.
a lot more expensive though. It's basically double the cost.
So question here, is there a charge for porting? So Troy, no, there's no charges for porting. For example, one telco will provide Cisco handsets with cloud PBX. I'm not quite sure where that falls in that question. Okay, if we have NBN and it drops out, do you have a 4G backup option or similar? Okay, that's a great question. So what we've got here at Leader, we've got our Draytech series routers that support SIM cards, so you can actually put a SIM card in that router, and you can use that as a 4G backup to your NBN fiber, ADSL, or maybe even another 4G service. So that would be a great option if you're in an unstable internet environment. So if you've got maybe your NBN's not working so great. We've had a particular few clients from Brisbane indicate to us that the NBN's not very stable there. That would be a great option so that you can cut across to 4G. By using the Intel Breeze NUC or the Leader NUCs, you can set the Draytech up and NUC to sit behind that router, and when you fall over to 4G, that your phone system will still keep working. Okay, another question here. No mention of Cisco phones. Can 3CX and Breeze Connect work with Cisco? That's probably a good question for Mark with 3CX.
Okay, so there's quite a few of the newer Cisco handsets which can auto-provision. So looking at some of the SPAs will automatically connect via the templates. So you can go to 3CX, and there's actually if you just want to share the screen here.
Yeah, I'll share. I'll go back to yours, Mark. Yep.
Yeah.
Just bear with me. Make you the organizer. Yep. I have to switch back to Mark.
Show on the screen. Okay.
Keep bringing it.
Okay, so you can see this. Okay,
yeah. So that's the supported phone list.
Yeah. So that's all the. So there's a whole lot of SPAs there. Cisco are a bit like Polycom. These handsets here that are supported are just pure SIP. Some of the older handsets use protocols like Skinny, and they need a whole lot of support files, and so they're not supported. Just going down to the Polycom, here's the Polycom handsets which are supported. To be honest, once you've used the Yealink handsets, you probably wouldn't use the Cisco. We've actually done a few deployments where they've had the old Cisco handsets, and what they've done is they've bought the Yealink T46s and used them for the receptionist, and then they've found a difference in the audio quality, the ease of use, the functionality on them, and so what they've done is they've basically replaced all the handsets with T42s and pretty well scrapped all the Cisco handsets. But look, if a customer does want to move across, the answer is yes, you can do that.
Okay, great. Now we've got another question here. Okay, so from Nick, what handset do you recommend for set up a test lab? What handsets do you recommend, Mark, for deployments?
So the main ones we use are we've got T41s and the T42s. So the difference between the two is that the T42 has the gigabit throughput. So if you've got one Ethernet connection to every handset, then use the T41s. If you're daisy chaining your computer into the back of the telephones, then use the T42s. Generally, we use T46 for reception because they've got the bigger screen, and you can also buy the sidecar, which will have an additional 40 BLF or presence keys on the actual telephone. Now, in saying that, some installations where, for example, the real estate agents, where they're using the portal at reception, they don't need all the features on the phones or the BLF keys because the portal will actually have everything on it. And then if you dial out through the actual portal, it will do all the functionality on the telephone. So normally we would do for standard office phones the T41s or the T42s, and then reception T46, and maybe more of an executive handset T46 as well.
Okay, great. Now I've got a question here from Norton. Norton's got a few questions. In relation to a real estate agent with 12 people on the phone all the time, how much bandwidth would be required, and what are the recommended codecs to use? So from a Breeze Connect point of view, we support G711AU and G729. So G729 being the lighter compressed codec that works better over lower bandwidth connections. But Mark, from your point of view, how much bandwidth would you allow for each simultaneous call?
There isn't an exact formula, but if you had 12 users on an NBN, as long as you've got at least a 5 meg up, you shouldn't have any problems at all. Look, we often use 722, which is high def. So if they're doing a lot of internal calls and it's on-premise, then we use the 722 because it's a wideband codec, which is very, very clear. What they will then do is when you're going to the carrier, which is Breeze Connect, it will actually connect via ULAW. In most situations, we can use just ULAW within the office and then ULAW connecting up to the VoIP provider. But as long as you've got, if you've got an ADSL at least 5 meg, you should be fine. On the Draytec modems.
Sorry, Mark. Yep.
Sorry, on the Draytec modems, they also have QoS built into them, and that can prioritise your SIP traffic for you.
What we've done too is we've actually built a Breeze Connect speed test. Jonathan, our web administrator, has just finished building this. So if you go onto the Breeze Connect website and you're not sure about one of your customers, you can actually run a speed, ping, and jitter test from your site and have a look at the upload, download, and jitter. So the jitter is the packets arriving out of order that can cause audio problems, and then your upload and download speed. So that is located next to our servers in the data center on our Google Compute platform. So if you run that test and you want to send us some details in relation to your statistics, we can go through on a case-by-case basis and evaluate that. So we'll have more information coming up here shortly. In relation to the SIP settings, we've got all of our codec requirements for best quality and for slower connections. We've also listed up here for everybody the call rules. So anything you need to add onto your system in order to get it working. For those of you, and I know a lot of you, we jump on TeamViewer. So if you're having trouble with a system or you need any support, TeamViewer is the way to go with quick support. Just click on that, download it, and one of our team members will be able to jump on and help you if you have any questions. Another question here from, let's have a look here from, okay, can a customer with an existing analog PBABX and existing handsets connect to Breeze by going through an ATA? That's probably a good question for Mark.
Yes, you can. You can get a gateway. You can get depends on how many channels you've got. There are some Cisco's, also the pattern gateways that you can order through Leda as well. Probably the pattern. You get like a 4-channel gateway should be enough. We've done them in a couple of installations. For customers who just want to trial it before they actually move over. I mean, ideally, you want to be connecting via SIP Direct and not through a gateway, but you can do it, yes.
We've also got, if you have any special requirements for gateways, either email myself and I'll speak with the product manager. We can get most of the major gateways in there, be it Cisco, Beronet, if you want to do any PRI, BRI systems with ISDN, we have all the compatible gateways for that. So if that is a requirement, just drop me an email and I can help you with that. Question for ADSL, and we get a lot of these questions. Will it work on ADSL? So you've got a smaller office which has ADSL and 2 users. That's a great question. So with ADSL, it really depends on how far you are away from the exchange. So if you're within 800 to 1500 meters from the exchange, we typically find those customers are okay. The limitation with VoIP is always the upload. So if you're running an Annex A ADSL service, that your upload is limited to, to around 700K to a meg, and that's your sort of theoretical throughput. So if you're doing any Dropbox or any file sharing, particularly with the transition to the cloud, if that's happening whilst you're on the phone, then you're going to end up with call quality problems. So we highly recommend implementing a QoS strategy, either using one of our Ubiquiti Unify security gateways or Dratec routers. That can be a great way to fix that problem. A question here from a customer, Norton, in regard to a number on a carrier that he can't port over. Norton, if you want to email that to me, I can find out more about that. Question from Gary in regard to the inbound firewall rules and port forwards that need to be set up. Mark, do you want to show everyone on the 3CX configurator tool, if you want to present again, the firewall checking service?
Okay, so when you, okay, hold on a second, just share my screen. Okay, so I won't do this one because it's a live server, but basically if you go to the firewall check and run it, it will actually stop all the services and it will do the firewall rules for you. Now, if you go onto the 3CX website and go into the search bar, you can actually search for all the port forwards. So in the Dratec, you go to, I think it's under NAT, and then it's under Open Ports. You can put all the ports in there and point it towards your 3CX server. Once you've done that, you simply run the firewall checker, and it should pretty well always pass. The only reason it wouldn't pass is basically if you've missed one of the ports, but it will actually tell you. Firewall checker pretty well works all the time, and and as long as you're doing all the port forwarding, you should be fine. I won't run it now because it will actually stop all the services.
There's also on the Breeze Connect website, we'll be listing all of the port forwarding rules on the website so that you can follow those. A question from Troy. How stable is the mobile client? So earlier versions of 3CX, to be honest, the client wasn't as stable. But however, in the latest release, that has been fixed. Mark, do you want to talk about the mobile client and your experience with that?
So I've actually got a few people who are using the mobile client within one of the groups that I'm setting up at the moment. The person I speak to, he uses it in the car, he uses it in the office, and quite often I'll ask him, are you actually on the mobile client? Because he actually walks around, and you really can't tell a lot of difference with your desk phone. I quite often get calls first thing in the morning, and late at night from one of my mates. He actually uses the mobile client on my 3CX server. He's actually in Ireland working over there at the moment, and he uses the 3CX client using mobile data on the Irish network, and it works really well. That's on the older version. The newer one is a little bit more stabler and a little bit clearer, but it does work very, very well. Obviously, it depends on your mobile carrier, but most of the phones and networks around the city are around 4G anyway, and that's only going to get better, which makes the client a lot more reliable.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to demonstrate to everybody before we finish up shortly, just in relation to signing up as a partner. So you can actually go through on the partner tab up here and to the partner registration. That will load up the Breeze Connect partner portal. So we'll process all of those pending. I know there's a lot of people who've signed up during the webinar. We'll process all of those and induct everyone into the portal so that they can start using the service. So if you go sign up through here, just make sure you use the correct leader account number and indicate who your account manager is so we can work in and help you with in all your 3CX deals. Question with the handset footprint of the mobile client, how much storage space does the mobile client take? Mark, have you got any indication on that?
No, I don't know, sorry.
No, neither do I, as I asked you. I'm not sure, Trevor. I think I think if you were doing call recording on the device and recording locally to it, possibly more, but I mean, I've got it running on my iPhone, I think 7 or 8, and it's no problems. I don't notice the machine bogging down or using excessive battery. So yeah, nothing to that extent. Any other questions from anyone? I've got another question here regarding SLAs for our Breeze Connect service. Okay, so in relation to Breeze Connect, what we're doing is we'll have our SLAs published up onto the web, but we're using all of the major carriers. We're using Telstra Wholesale, Vocus, Optus. We've got built-in network redundancy in the back-end systems, so we're not just relying on one carrier like Vocus or Optus or Telstra. We're actually using multiple providers to give us that redundancy with the service. So this service, we've been very, very careful and very, very structured in the way we set it up, so that we do have that cross-network redundancy. So you're obviously going to be redundant in 2 levels. So we've got our network level redundancy built in with our Google platform and data center setup. We've also got redundancy built in with our network selection and carrier choices, but we've also got redundancy from your 3CX system back to the client. So, for example, if the phone system's unregistered or down, then you can forward to mobiles, and that was what I indicated earlier with the Breeze Connect functionality, very similar to the Engine Self-Care, where you can go in and you can set up your call forwarding straight away without mucking around. So, for instance, if I wanted to set it up so that if the trunk registration status fails, then I can forward it to a number. So I can forward it to a mobile number, or I can forward when there's no answer or when it's busy. So that is a great option for people if they're running an on-prem system. Maybe their internet connection's not very reliable, or maybe they've had troubles in the past, or the carrier's doing maintenance. This is a safeguard in here that will always be available to do call forwarding. So a really clever option as opposed to the current situation with ringing Telstra and having to put through port forwards. I've got a question here from Darren. Is there any offering with Breeze to resellers to demo? Yeah, Darren, if you email me after the presentation, I can help you out with that. Can you email voicemails? Good question for Mark.
Yep, so with the voicemail notifications, you can either have just notification on the phone, you can have notification via email, and it will just tell you have a message. You can have notification with email and attachment, so the user can then click on the attachment and it will play it as a WAV file. And you can also have email and delete. So it will send it to your email box and delete off the actual telephone. Collecting voicemail, just on the Yay link, just press the envelope key, and you can either have a PIN or no PIN. And if you're using the extension portal, it will actually come up indicating that you have a message, and you can simply click on it and play it back either through your telephone or through your computer.
Great. Another question here in regard to support hours for Perth. Good question, Troy. So if you're over in Perth, we'll be having a training. We'll be putting a new staff member over there, or someone who can chase the sun for us to help out our Perth. So currently at Leader, we really pride ourselves on having a presence nationally, and that we do chase the sun in the afternoon. So people on the eastern seaboard can still place orders right up to, I believe, 7 o'clock at night. So we do pride ourselves on that national presence and on the ability to provision orders and take your calls. So we will be bringing that in for Breeze Connect to make sure that our customers have that same experience across the entire portfolio of products. So yeah, really good question. Another question for Troy. Do you still recommend a second internet connection to ensure quality of service? Look, it depends, Troy. I mean, if you're putting in a Telstra fibre service or a high-end corporate-grade product, I've often found that the quality of service isn't required. That if the service has enough bandwidth, maybe it's a 50 megabit, 100 megabit, or possibly a gigabit service, that's, voice traffic's relatively insignificant on that line. So look, it's on a case-by-case scenario. It depends on the situation. So I'd think if you've got a specific requirement or you're not quite sure, please feel free to drop Mark or myself an email and we can help. Another question from Paul: will we be including the Yealink cordless handsets? So yeah, absolutely, we'll be including those in the configurator in the next release, which will be next week. Isaac, in regard to faxing, so do you want to explain a bit more about the faxing capabilities, Mark, and we can go through that?
Okay, so with the fax on the 3CX, you can actually set up your DIDs on 3CX for fax, and then it will do fax to email for you. So that's already built into 3CX. Now, if you're using Breeze Connect, they also support fax protocol. So the faxes will go straight through Breeze Connect in and out. You just have to be aware that some providers, for example, Internode do fax, MyNet Phone do fax, and so do Engine. There's a couple of providers that don't do fax, and they have, like for example, Envoice don't actually support fax through their network, but they do have their own fax to email. Whereas Breeze Connect, you can either do fax to email directly through them or through the 3CX server, and it's actually quite easy to set up. You basically just go into, there's a section on there to assign an extension to a fax, assign your DIDs, and then the calls will just go straight through. So that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, awesome. So, to answer that a bit more, so we support the T38 protocol for anyone out there who isn't sure about that. So, as Mark was saying, a lot of providers don't support that protocol or don't have any offering that can reliably accept faxes. So yeah, we've listened to our customers there. With our invoices, are they itemized? From Michael. It's a great question. So we don't actually itemize our invoices, but we do provide the end user with the ability to log in and access the call records. So they can log in and they can generate a report. We haven't made any calls because this is a new customer, and they can do extension level call reporting. So for example, if you want to go into here and look at inbound calls, internal calls, or missed calls, you can run a report. So we do itemize the calls in relation to local, national, 131300, special calls to directory or other services, but we don't actually put that on the bill, simply due to the sheer size of the bills. A lot of people don't require 100 pages of phone records in a PDF bill, but if they want to access and run a report, they can either download all the call records into a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet. Some customers use pivot tables to provide accurate call reporting within the organization to break that down into cost centers. We've considered cost centers as part of the billing. So for the billing, I'll show you here, we have extension level billing for the trunk, so you can click on that and you'll have all your extensions there that will generate a report. Plus, we also have, as part of the trunking, the ability to allocate a cost center to the trunk. So if you go into VoIP here, I'm in the end user, sorry, I'll go back here. Yep, if you go into the end user here, let's say, for instance, we go to trunks. There we go. Then you can actually put a reference name there. So if you've got a specific call center that you want to allocate, cost center that you want to allocate that to for your finance team, then that's a possibility. Question from Peter about the call reporting. Great, except if you use the multi-tenant mode model, correct? No, so the multi-tenant mode, as Mark explained earlier, works on the 3CX level, but as Mark said, he has individual SIP trunks for each end user. So the Breeze Connect bill will go out to each end user, and you'll be able to do your call statistics in here. But that's call statistics in the 3CX application. obviously aren't globally accessible because you can't multi-tenant that part, but you can still offer the functionality within the Breeze Connect portal. Question here. Here we go. When do we pay commissions? Thanks, Michael. So we're going to be offering two options. We can do a direct debit, or we can actually credit your leader account. So we'll be paying commissions at the end of the next month or mid-month at this stage. So when we process our bill run, your client pays at the end of that month, we'll then do a commission run. So we'll have a reporting feature that emails you with your commissions, and then you can cross-check. Question for Mark. What's the best protocol? ULAW 772 or was it 722?
So generally I would use ALAW, which is a good all-purpose codec. I don't tend to use 729 unless we have issues. For example, a clinic that we recently did in the country in Queensland used SkyMaster, and when we first made calls, it was going and it was pretty bad. We actually put it to 729 and actually cleared it up instantly. But so generally I would use ALAW. If you've got issues or low bandwidth, then use the 729. Just with the dedicated ADSL, we do have a couple of clients who have separate ADSL services. You can have two modems on the one network, just have two gateways, and then we just point the VoIP through the second gateway. We also have a couple of instances in South Australia where they're on a wireless provider, either on Uscope or Unity. And what we do is we use the Draytag modem with the gigabit WAN port. What we do is we put the gigabit WAN for the wireless service, and then we have an ADSL service which we use for the VoIP. In the modem, we use the forwarding rule that basically says any VoIP traffic going to this IP goes out through the ADSL, and everything else goes out through the wireless. This way the customer gets high-speed internet for all their web browsing, and they get reliability for all their VoIP calls. So that's another. There's always different ways to get around different solutions.
Awesome. Now, another question here regarding the NUCs. So now we've carefully selected those in the medium and large edition. So medium and large include our leader 3-year up and running warranty. That's a 3-year warranty on those with our up and running guarantee. So if you have an issue with those NUCs, we'll swap them out. We've also used SSDs in that. No moving parts with the hard drive. So we've been very careful about that, considering these systems are going to be running 24 hours a day, that we obviously don't want any moving parts. So that answers that question. If we've got no more questions, what I'll do is I'll give you our contact details. Either Mark or myself can answer your questions, or contact your account manager. Your account manager can either direct your query to myself or Mark, and can assist you with most of your 3CX design and implementation strategies. So reach out to your account manager. For harder questions, please feel free to call myself or Mark if you require any 3CX design or any 3CX pre-sales, post-sales support, that we're here to help. Question from Grant. What does the 3CX NFR give us? Question for Mark.
So your NFR, your not for resale. So when you sign up, you get your not for resale, and that basically increases with the number of installations that you do. So when you join the 3CX program, you get points for becoming silver, bronze, gold, or platinum partner. So as you're selling systems, you get points for every system that you sell, and then they actually give you extra license keys. So as you're going, I'm not sure what the base one is. What do you know the base one for? Yeah, base is 4. Yeah, and then as 4 Pro, and then as you're doing more installations, they'll generally give you extra channels that you can use for yourself. So it's definitely worth registering and getting that NFR key, and then as you're doing installations, just putting your 3CX account number onto the installation, and then you get credit for all of them. And as I said, once you become gold partner or platinum partner, they start referring you from the website and give you direct referrals.
So a lot of people are asking where you register for 3CX. So if you visit the 3cx.com/partners/apply, that will complete all of your details in here. I can then access the Leader portal to see your application, and I can approve it and get that set up for you. So please fill in the details here. Feel free to shoot me a email once you've done that. I'll speak to the 3CX product manager internally or myself, and we'll get that for you. Make sure your NFR is set up in a timely fashion. In relation to the...
Sorry, Ty, there's also a link from the banner from the Leader website.
Oh, great! Yeah, straight away. So you can join straight from the dealer shop without any problems. The other question people are asking is a Breeze partner, and that's what I showed you before, just from the Breeze Connect website. So the takeaways from this are sign up for Breeze, sign up for 3CX, and then we'll be in touch, and you can start selling. So very, very simple next steps. People asking, does Breeze Connect support sending faxes and SMSs? So we've answered the fax part. SMSs at this stage, no, but we're looking at bringing that in next year. Question in relation to the session border controller. Does Mark recommend using the 3CX session border controller for ADSL installs with 4 users?
No, to be honest, even up to 10 users, I haven't used the session border controllers. It will basically connect via stun. So up to 10, we've had no issues. If you do set up a session border controller, it's set up on a separate PC or on a NUC, and it just basically does a VPN back. If you're doing installations that have got more than 10 handsets, then what you can actually do is you can actually change the port numbers for each extension, and you can also, and that way you can get around using the session border controller. So any 4 or 5 handsets, I wouldn't worry about it. Over 10, give us a call and we'll change you how to change the ports. It's actually, just 2 seconds. Can you just share my screen again, Ty?
Yeah, no problems.
Okay, so here's how you do it. You just go into an extension, and then you go under the provisioning tab. Not a good example. Who's got a phone? Donna. Okay, so go under the provisioning tab. Now, what you do is the SIP port here, they're all set 5060, and the RTP and the local RTP are the same. So you might make that one 50, and then 5060. Next one will be 5061, 5062. This one here, and this one here increment by 10. So by incrementing these ports here, so if you've got 5 sites, you can actually use the same port ranges on each one of the sites. But you're basically just changing the ports. If you're using modems like the Dratex, you generally don't need to change the ports, even if it's up to about 10 handsets. It's only some of the cheaper modems that may have some issues with natting, that you might have the problems with the ports. But if you get stuck, just give me a call.
So I've got a few questions from people about brochures. So as part of the handouts, I'm uploading the collateral for Breeze Connect. So our 3CX Ready solutions, our plans, both pay-as-you-go and unlimited. I'll also upload the critical information summaries and other legal documents we've got. These are all accessible on the website as well at www.breezeconnect.com.au. Mark, another question. Is there a receptionist web interface for call management?
Yep, there is. There's actually a couple of ways you can do it. So this is the standard interface. Now, if you go into Switchboard, it will actually tell you calls going in and out of the system. This is actually the whiteboard. If you've got multiple queues, the queues will be listed down the side. You can see how many people are in the queue. You can also log people in and out of queues. So the receptionist can do that. We actually use it in the for the call centers where users can, the call center manager can assign people to different queues just by using this web interface. Now the second way of doing it, and this is the leader one, you can actually go, no, this extension is restricted. But what you can actually do is from the 3CX client, there's actually another management console that you can go, which will show you all the calls coming in and out. And if you're a queue manager, you can manage all the queues from there as well.
Question here as well about the best routers to use. Have you got any experience from your preference there, Mark?
Yep, definitely the Dratex. A long time ago, we were using the Cisco Small Business. Then we moved to the Billions. Ones I don't recommend at this stage are Netgears. They're, you know, I've had some issues with them in the past, but the Dratex have been the best, most reliable, and stable ones for running VoIP.
Thanks, Mark. Now, just to let everyone know, I've uploaded the handouts for the presentation. I'll make the webinar available on the dealer shop after we finish up. So I've uploaded the 3CX Ready solutions, the 2 information summaries, and information about the plans. I'll also send out an email after the webinar with all of the collateral, all of the assets we've spoken about in the webinar, the configurator, the Breeze portal, and getting started. So that all of those I'll flick out after the meeting. Another question here for the presentation slides. Yeah, I'll send that all out after the webinar. So I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Breeze webinar, and thanks to Mark for stepping in and helping us out with it. So if anyone has any questions or any further matters, please reach out to either Mark or myself, and we'll send our details out after the webinar.